Hey guys, Kurt from Time Machine Transport. Just heading out to the shop to change the oil in our ATVs, ones I call the murder machines. Beautiful day in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Anyways, I'm gonna do a video on how to do the oil change and stuff like that on a Yamaha and a Honda, and I'll explain it when I do those videos. But this video is based on, so I'm my father-in-law, who I call my dad. He sent me a thing yesterday, and it was basically, Ukraine's doing so well against Russia. Who would have thought? Blah blah blah, all this stuff. And let me close this summer if I think too much air coming in. And I've been watching a lot of Fox and CNN. I know mainstream media, which I don't agree with, but and they keep showing the same pictures over and over and over. And I got another brother, I won't mention his name, but I mean, he believes that the Xi Jinping in China and Russia with Putin are white hats from this Q movement or whatever. And that's I'm intrigued by the whole thing. I just don't agree with it. I think that it's funny. Well, I wouldn't say it's funny, like ha 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 ha, but it's odd how YouTube and all these other media channels, Facebook and Rumble and all these other ones, they'll censor your a religious video or a cop behind me, like a religious video or an anti-government video or an anti-Biden video, or just a truther video. But yet they allow the Q videos. I think if it's too easy for us to access stuff like that, I think it can't be right. They want to push that narrative. But that's not what the video is about. So my dad had sent me this stuff he wrote out about, everything that Fox is saying about the Ukrainian invasion and how well it's going and so on and so on and so on. And I told him, I said, don't fall into that whole propaganda, if you will, where Ukraine's, they're and maybe they are putting up a great fight, and I hope they do. I like the whole David versus Goliath thing and David winning over the monster. So, however, you have to think about this realistically, man. I mean, none of it makes sense. As far as, first off, your main battle, and I've been wanting to do a video now for a few days, and I just haven't done it. But you have to look at it as, I was in a combat unit over in Vicenza, Italy, in an airborne unit, and when we went to Iraq and stuff like that, I mean, there's a lot of stuff they trained us on and talked about and talked about battle plans and everything else. Excuse my dirty sweatshirt. I'm not going to wear any good clothes out to the shop for the obvious. But so the battle plan, I mean, if you're going in to literally crush your opponent or your adversary, right? If you're out and you're going to do that, you're going to cut the power, you're going to cut the water, you're going to literally make it so uncomfortable for the citizens. And people, they haven't captured one city yet and all this stuff. There's a 40-mile convoy outside the city of Kyiv. Kyiv got bombed, this and that. But you got to ask yourself some logical questions. Why haven't the Russians killed the power? Why haven't they done anything to the running water? Because here's the thing. With President Zelensky, Vladimir Zelensky. So him staying in Kyiv, I admire that. I respect that. If it's true, I mean, who knows what everything is true and not true nowadays. But if he is still in Kyiv, which everybody's saying he is, I respect that to the fullest. That he's not tucking tail and running. He's gonna fight like a man. And I do agree with the fighting age males from 18 to 60 that they should stay behind. People are kind of complaining about that, like, oh, that's unfair. No, that's what you do to win wars, man. But so here's the thing: you don't want to build the morale of the Ukrainian people, right? You don't want them to know that their president is still in country, because that's gonna build up their morale. That's gonna give them that extra fighting spirit. If he can do it, I'm gonna do it. So I don't know why the Russians haven't killed the power or the water yet. I was amazed. That's the very first thing that they should have did, unless they were just gonna go in and just pummel them, right? With airstrikes and mortar rounds and shelling, and just everything, missile attacks. I mean, they could have just stood in the outskirts and literally just bombed them for 24 hours. Just, if you looked at the numbers of, they don't have air superiority yet, which is kind of wild. I mean, they have their air forces like 10-1 of Ukraine's, and I mean, they did a whole entire thing there, the tanks and the armored vehicles and this and that and blah, blah, blah. So, and their army and their reserves and this and that. So, Russia, people are like, oh, and I was right on that same thing. Like, wow, man, the Ukrainians are really putting up a great fight on the first day. And I'm like, wow. And then the second day, I'm like, wow. But then it just didn't make sense then. That they didn't cut the power, they didn't cut the water, and they're allowing this communication to go on social media. Why would the Russians allow? Because right now, at all angles, Putin and his generals are looking like a bunch of inept goons, right? Because the propaganda that's coming out on the social media is, Russia can't advance because they're meeting such harsh resistance. And it could be, I'll keep an open mind to it, but I don't see that happening. Because they haven't really bombed. I mean, they could literally just sit outside the cities and just mortar shell them just nonstop. They're saying that Russia or Putin is spending $14 billion a day to sustain this war. A day. All right, so I don't believe that we should be buying, I don't know why our great freaking commander-in-chief hasn't started up the Keystone Pipeline yet, but he's just guy's a piece of garbage. But anyways, but he's not really running things anyways, right? So, but I don't understand how, and like I said, I was kind of on that wagon as well. Like, holy cow, they're really putting up a great fight, but then it just didn't make sense. It didn't make sense that our battle plan to go into a country would be just hit them as hard as you can with your airstrikes, your missile strikes, moving infantry, mortar them day in, day out, attack the power grid, attack the water source. But no, their power and water still on. And why? You have to ask yourself some logical questions. Why? How and why is that? Because, like I said, if you have power, people can charge their mobile devices, right? And if they don't have power, they can't charge their mobile devices unless you have a generator or a solar generator, a regular gas generator, diesel generator, or a solar generator. Which we have. Text message from baby girl. Which we have. In our shop, we got generators, and we have a solar generator. So, that dude's on the ice out there, man. Dude, you're fucking nuts. It's been so warm these last few days. This dude's out there ice fishing. Dude, you're nuts. I wouldn't be on the ice. He doesn't have a vehicle out there, but I wouldn't be on the ice right now. We've had some really nice weather here in Wisconsin. Well, southern Wisconsin. So anyway, ask yourself some logical questions, right? How and why did Russia not turn off the power? Why have they not shelled the shit out of them And my logic to that
New text message from Dad Cell.
My logic to that is, well, because if they did, they would look like monsters, right? They're saying that Putin's going to be up on war crimes or whatever the case is. See, that what's going to happen is Putin and his generals right now are looking like a bunch of inept goons, right? And that's very embarrassing for Russia, Mother Russia, right? They're not liking that. So and people are like, well, why hasn't this 40-mile, first it was a 3-mile convoy, now it's 40-mile convoy. But if you look at the satellite images, all the vehicles are so close together. Why would you stack vehicles on top of vehicles on top of vehicles? One bomb would take out a shit ton of those vehicles. You should be in a strategic formation or in a combat formation, even if you're moving through the woods or whatever the case is. You need to stay 15 meters apart between guys, but you still need to make eye contact when you're moving. So it's the same thing for military vehicles or convoys. You don't want to be right up on top of each other, especially if you don't have air superiority, right? But I'm wondering if they stack them up like that as bait to lure in the Ukrainian fighters or bomber, well, whatever. I don't know about bombers, but they're fighter planes, right? Are they luring them? Are they baiting them? I don't know. But you have to ask yourself logical questions like that, right? So why is there purpose of stacking these vehicles on top of another? And then people are like, well, they haven't moved because they're facing such harsh resistance. No, I don't think that's the case at all. I think, well, it's almost fact. I mean, I don't know about fact. We don't know about anything's fact, right? Just by watching mainstream media. But they have bridges going in all around Kyiv into the capital of Ukraine. A lot of those bridges will be taken out by the Ukrainians to slow the movement of the Russians, right? So, I can't fall asleep for some reason. So they have to put up their own bridges, their own, their engineers come in and they start, they have, these vehicles like tank tracks or whatever, and they're literally a bridge that you put in front of each other and you make your own bridge. So they're probably waiting for that, right? Or they're just being very patient for whatever reason, or they're baiting the Ukrainians, right? Now, the Ukrainian citizens, man, you want to talk about a bunch of warriors, man. I mean, that's awesome. If they truly are, making these Molotov cocktails and they gave out, 40 or 50,000 AKs out to the public or whatever, which, I mean, that's what I would do. But you're also setting yourself up for people that don't know how to operate a weapon to put their finger on that trigger mechanism and shoot somebody accidentally. So that, it's good, but it's not good at the same time. There's pros and cons to both, right? But you have to ask yourself, man, why are the Russians, why have they not taken out the power grid or the water or bombed and shelled them just relentless, like just constantly? Because if they do, they're going to look like monsters, right? So, and also, if you think about it as well, if Putin wants to go in and place another government in there and decapitate the current parliament or whatever, he's going to have to rebuild, right? You don't want to bomb the shit out of a city, and then if you want to put your own government in there, where they, people aren't going to want to live in this war-torn, rubbled area, right? So maybe he's not doing it for that reason, because they're going to just basically go in there strategically and start from baby girl and start doing everything that that they want to do without a lot of citizen casualties. So they're going in basically with they're not being as aggressive as they want to be. But I think that Putin's going to be shoved into a corner, or he's being shoved back into a corner, and he's literally going to come out swinging. And that's when I don't think he's going to stop in Ukraine. Just like I did a video, I don't know, a while back that said he's going into Ukraine. He has to. if he's spending, which I thought was, millions or tens of millions of dollars to put all these troops and hardware on the border, well, if this war is costing him 14 billion with a B a day, then to be out on the border for that long, I mean, I was way off on my financial numbers. That if you're, I mean, come on, I mean, our economy, even as shitty as it is right now, is way better than Russia's, right? They said that Russia's economy is about the size of Spain. So for such a massive country, and for them to be, a lot of people don't know, but a lot of their money comes from the oil, the natural gas, mining, steel and palladium, and I mean all kinds of stuff. So that's like 2/3 of their economy is mining and oil and natural gas, which blows my mind that we're still buying it from. They say that we're buying like 5 to 12 million barrels of oil from them per month. And Americans, we consume, I think it was 850 million gallons of fuel every day. Which I think, I check the numbers on that. I'm not really sure if that's 100% accurate, but I heard something like that. So, but again, ask yourself some logical questions. Don't just think that Ukraine's putting up that great of a resistance, and maybe they are. Like I said, maybe they absolutely are, and I hope they are. I really truly hope they are. However, you have to ask yourself why, and I just think maybe they're trying to, and maybe they did underestimate the Ukrainians and the population and the citizens or whatever. Or maybe they haven't made it uncomfortable for the citizens, because if you're trying to take over a country and place your own government in there, if you shit on the citizens, they're gonna want to have your head. So you'll have constant resistance forever, right? So maybe they're trying to, woo the citizens, right? With candies and flowers, and say, here you go, so that they're not, like a bunch of pissed off Wolverines that are trying to eat you, So maybe that's another reason why Russia's not doing it. I mean, I'm for the Ukrainian people, man. like I said, I love the David and Goliath story, that David conquers Goliath. And obviously Russia being, one of our adversaries, not now anyways, but I think they're personally going into NATO. I think that's what he's going to do. And maybe that's another reason why he hasn't been so aggressive either. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe the Ukrainians are putting up such a great resistance and a great fight, right? And he doesn't want to lose a lot of his military, or not a lot of it, but a percentage of his military, if he goes into serious battle with them, because maybe his plan is to take or go into NATO, and he needs those forces. And maybe he's just bringing everybody up, even further into the country. So when he does make that move, he's not faced with this, this lighthearted attack, if that's what they're doing, right? Because he needs to go in there full force in the NATO if he does decide to make that move, which I think he personally is. And I kind of pray for it. I mean, I know I sound sick when I say that, but like I said, I've lived my life already, man. I got a lot of ailments, and so I'm okay going to God's backyard, man, going to the Holy Land. So, but anyways, and that little thing right there, it's that thing I got in my back seat. It's jogging stroller. Yeah, my big ass ain't jogging anywhere, but I have it. It's from a retail shop. My wife were out the other day, and it's for my truck, for my bug out stuff, because there's no way I'm humping, all that shit, by myself. So this is it's a 3-wheel or a tri-wheel, if you would, jogging stroller, which was super cheap. It's got shocks and everything on it. So anyways, I'll do a video on it. So anyways, just at the post office dropping off some of my wife's things before I go to the shop. But anyways, like I said, ask yourself some logical questions, man. Don't just, believe everything that Fox and CNN show you and everything else. And like I said, I kind of fell on that same, I was in that same wagon as everybody else. And I'm like, but I told my wife, I'm like, hi, baby girl, I love you. I said, it just doesn't make any sense. Why it's like, it's not that aggressive. But again, it could be, and the Ukrainians just really are, and I hope that's the case, that they truly are putting up that great of a resistance. I don't see that. But again, you have to ask yourself, why is the power still on? So that they can communicate with the outside world. Putin doesn't want them to be able to put this negative stuff about Russia onto social media. So that's really odd that he hasn't done that, because like I said, without power, you're not charging your devices, and these people can't communicate with their families, with each other. Essentially, if you take out the power, your people can't communicate unless they have a two-way radios, like obviously we have in our preps. But again, why leave the power on so people can have charged devices and be able to communicate on social media? That just makes no sense. I'm sure it'd be very easy for them to knock out the power grid there, or not. I don't know, but I would think it would be easy for military power like Russia to be able to just dump a bunch of rockets. And I guess they did take out like a TV antenna yesterday or today. But again, ask yourself, why is the power still on? Why do they still have water to drink? And is it because Russia's waiting for something and he's bringing up everything he's got to just literally steamroll over Ukraine and then go into NATO? Or is he making peace with the citizens now so that he doesn't have a bunch of pissed off Wolverines when he does take control and put his own parliament in there, or his own government in there? So now you have all these, citizens that are totally pissed off because now you just basically they had no power and no water, and you're just going to be faced with all this resistance day in and day out, right? Or have they not done it because they don't want to look like monsters? Like I said, if you sit there, you can shell them all day long from outside of the cities. Just drop mortars on them, missiles, everything else, and just pummel them. So, but then they would look like monsters, right? Or is it Ukraine is putting up that kind of a resistance? I hope that's the case. I truly hope it is. But again, just ask yourself some logical questions. Why do they still have power and water on? Just ask yourself that. And why again, a large part of that is, unless you have generators, you're not going to have charged devices to put your stuff on social media. Because right now, Putin and his generals are looking like a bunch of buffoons, right? And that doesn't go over very well with Russia, right? So why? Ask yourself. And maybe leave a comment and say, hey, Kurt, this is the reason why. So anyways, I got to get these in here, and I got to get over to the shop. And like I said, I'll do a video on the ATVs. But anyways, I hope this video finds you well. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Ciao.